Good luck on your date, I said, holding the phone out to her like it was radioactive. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then her lips parted just a little, but no sound came out. Just this twitch in her jaw like her brain couldn't catch up to her face. That panic? That was real. I didn't imagine it. I didn't exaggerate it. I didn't dream it up like I had with all the other things she told me I was reading into. The panic told me everything. And it all started because she forgot to log out of her messages. I wasn't even snooping. That's the part that stings the most. Her phone dinged when she left it charging in the kitchen, some kind of glitchy cross-device sync thing, I guess, because suddenly the iPad started lighting up with messages. Not one, not two, but 9 messages in less than a minute, all from a contact saved as R. No emoji, no last name, just R. And then, because the universe apparently has a cruel sense of humor, the last message popped up and stayed on the screen. Can't stop thinking about last night. That thing you did with your hands. I swear I stopped breathing. I don't even know why I opened the full thread. Maybe I thought I'd find a reason not to be suspicious. Maybe I hoped it was a friend with a very unfortunate way of phrasing things. But no. The thread was full of hotel room selfies. Late-night heart emojis. Plans for next Tuesday, same time? And worst of all, a message from her that said, I'll tell Ezra I'm going to Target. I'm wearing the red lace again, winky face. Target. She told me she was picking up detergent and snacks. I even gave her $20 in cash because she said she lost her debit card. And she was wearing that red lace set, the one I thought she got for me last Valentine's Day, when she said she was too tired to do anything. I sat down on the cold kitchen floor, iPad in my hands, and just stared at the screen. Not crying, not yelling, just breaking quietly in a room that still smelled like her perfume. When she walked through the door 20 minutes later, humming some stupid song like everything was normal, I didn't even get up. I just turned the screen toward her. She looked at it, then looked at me, then looked away like she could just will the whole thing out of existence. And that's when I said it. Good luck on your date. The silence that followed was louder than anything she could have screamed. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She just stood there, clutching the plastic Target bag like it was some kind of shield, and I watched her world crumble in her eyes. But she didn't know the half of it yet. Because the part that she really should have panicked about was what I did after she left for that Target trip. After she dropped the Target bag on the floor and stood there frozen like a deer caught mid-lie, I didn't say a word. I didn't yell. I didn't even blink. I just watched her unravel. She muttered something, some half-formed excuse, like, Ezra, that's not what it looks like. But her voice was barely audible, like even she didn't believe it. I stood up, slow and quiet, walked past her, and went straight into the bedroom. I didn't slam the door. I didn't lock it. I just needed space, and not the kind she'd been secretly taking behind my back. I needed to sit with this without her hovering, pretending to fix what she shattered with her own hands. Here's what she didn't know. I had already followed her once. It wasn't planned. It wasn't like I woke up and decided to tail my wife like some bargain bin detective. It happened 2 Tuesdays ago, the night she said she was meeting her sister for sushi. She left in a hurry, dressed nicer than usual for a casual dinner. Lipstick. Hair curled. That red lace underlay I caught a glimpse of when she leaned down to grab her purse. She didn't think I saw, but I did. Something about it didn't sit right with me. So I got in my car 15 minutes later and drove to the sushi place. She wasn't there. I waited in the parking lot for over an hour, circling twice, walking past the windows, even went inside pretending I was picking up an order. No sign of her. So I sat in my car across the street with the seat leaned back like I was taking a nap, just in case I was wrong. At 9:12 p.m., she drove by and turned down Mitchell Avenue, 2 blocks away from the restaurant. I followed from a distance. No headlights. No sudden moves. I felt disgusting. But I also felt, right, like I was finally seeing what had been there all along. She pulled into the parking garage of the Lakeford Suites Hotel, parked on the 3rd level. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. Then I crept up on foot like some kind of shadow. I didn't get too close. Just enough to see her open the back door of her car and him stepping out of the passenger seat. I didn't know his name yet, but I recognized his face. From the Christmas party. From the one time he helped us carry a bookshelf from IKEA to her car. Tall. Clean cut. Always a little too friendly. They didn't hug. They didn't kiss. They didn't have to. The way they moved said everything. Familiar. Comfortable. Like this wasn't the first time. I watched them walk inside together, side by side, And I stood there in that garage, knees shaking, fingers frozen, wanting to scream but knowing I wouldn't. I'm not the screaming type. I'm the type that cracks in silence. I didn't confront her that night. I drove home, sat in the driveway for over an hour with the engine off, and stared at the front door like it belonged to someone else. When she came home around midnight, she smelled like peppermint and wine. I asked if she had fun. She nodded. Said her sister told her a hilarious story, but she forgot the details. I knew then, but I said nothing. I buried it like I buried everything else. I convinced myself I needed proof. Not for her. For me. So I wouldn't gaslight myself anymore. That's why when she forgot to log out of her messages this morning, I didn't freak out. I was calm. Cold, even. I finally had what I needed. Not just evidence. Clarity. No more second-guessing. No more letting her rewrite my reality. And now? Now she's pacing the hallway outside our bedroom, rehearsing apologies I won't accept, or lies she doesn't know how to phrase. I hear her on the phone now, whispering urgently to someone, I can guess who. Probably R. Probably panicking that I know, and trying to figure out what I'll do with that knowledge. But what she doesn't know, what neither of them knows, is that I already booked a room at Lakeford Suites under my own name for this Thursday night. Because if they think they've seen panic, they haven't seen anything yet. Thursday came faster than I expected, and by then, the house felt like a war zone with no bombs. Just two people pretending the walls weren't covered in invisible cracks. Selena didn't mention what I saw. Not once. She went right back to normal, or rather, her version of it. She cooked dinner like she hadn't been caught mid-lie. She kissed me on the cheek like I wasn't holding her betrayal in my chest like a tumor. She even left her phone out more often, like she was trying to convince me there was nothing to hide. But she'd already slipped once. I didn't need more proof. I needed closure. Or revenge. Or maybe just answers. I didn't even know anymore. What I did know was that I had packed a small black gym bag the night before, not with sneakers or workout clothes, but with something far more precise. A discreet audio recorder, a spiral notebook, a power bank, and a pair of cheap sunglasses that made me feel less like a coward and more like a man with a plan. I even printed out the full text exchange from her iPad. 54 pages, front and back. I didn't know why. Maybe I needed to see it, feel the weight of it in my hands, hold something real for once. That afternoon, I told her I was going out of town for a 2-day business retreat. It was laughably easy. She didn't even ask where. Just nodded, barely looked up from her mirror while curling her hair. She was already getting ready. A black skirt I hadn't seen in months. Stockings. A silk top that clung in the wrong places. She looked good, painfully good. But none of it was for me. It hadn't been for a long time. Be safe, she said casually, like I was going to a dentist appointment. You too, I replied. At 7:14 p.m., I parked in the alley behind the Lakeford Suites. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely clip the mic to the inside of my jacket. I wasn't even sure what I was hoping to catch, some grand confession? A fight? I didn't know. I just wanted to witness it with my own eyes. I couldn't live in doubt anymore. Not after everything. At 7:39 p.m., her car pulled in. She parked in the same spot. Same level. Like clockwork. She sat in the driver's seat for about 2 minutes, probably texting him. Then she stepped out, red heels clicking like metronome beats echoing across concrete. I stayed out of sight, ducked low behind a rental van. Then he arrived. Uber. Black hoodie. Confident. Relaxed. And when he stepped out, he didn't even check over his shoulder. He just walked up to her like he belonged to her. That's when I pressed record. They talked for a few seconds, laughing. Then he reached for her hand. Not just held it. He kissed it. Right there in the open, like they were characters in some twisted love story. She melted, tilted her head, whispered something I couldn't catch. Then they walked into the lobby. I followed behind at a distance, keeping my head down. I had already booked the room across the hall from theirs. Yes, it took some coaxing. Yes, I slipped the front desk clerk a little tip to find out where Mr. Randall was staying. Turns out, charm still works when it comes with cash. Room 612. Mine was 610. I slipped in, turned off the lights, and left the door cracked just enough to see the hallway through the peephole. 5 minutes later, I saw them stumble into 612. Laughing. Her hand was on his chest. He pushed the door shut behind them. That's when the real pain started. You know what it feels like to sit 3 feet away from your own imploding marriage, hearing muffled sounds that used to belong to you? It's not rage. It's not sorrow. It's this surreal hollowness, like watching a stranger's life go up in smoke while being unable to stop it. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed for over an hour, just listening, recording, sometimes pacing, sometimes breathing into a towel so I didn't scream. I heard snippets, her voice, his voice. I couldn't make out every word, but the tone said enough. And then I heard her laugh. That full, deep, playful laugh I hadn't heard in months. The laugh she used to save for me. She gave it away like it cost her nothing. I stayed until their door went quiet. Then I left. No confrontation. No hotel lobby meltdown. That wasn't the plan. Not yet. I wasn't going to let them write the ending. Because now, I had everything I needed. But I wasn't ready to burn it all down just yet. I wanted to watch them squirm. I wanted her to feel it, not just lose me, but lose the illusion that she could ever control the story again. And so the next morning, I made breakfast like always. French toast, bacon, coffee. She came into the kitchen with a smile. But taped to her mug was a sticky note with 4 words. She stared at the note like it had teeth. Her fingers trembled around the mug, and for a second I thought she might actually drop it. But she didn't. She blinked rapidly, set the mug down without taking a sip, and asked, "What's this supposed to mean?" Her voice was high-pitched, off, like she was trying to play dumb and choke on the panic at the same time. I didn't look up from the skillet. "Nothing," I said casually, flipping bacon with a little too much force. "Just figured you might want to double-check your iPad next time. Notifications can be unpredictable." That was all it took. She bolted from the kitchen like the walls were on fire and slammed the bathroom door. I heard the frantic footsteps, then the unmistakable sound of her typing, tapping, swiping. Probably opening the Messages app, realizing her entire affair had been broadcasting itself on the home devices. The irony was almost cinematic. She'd spent weeks gaslighting me, and now she was scrambling to hide what I'd already seen, heard, and recorded. Meanwhile, I calmly finished breakfast. I didn't rush. I plated everything like I was in a cooking competition, wiped the edges of the plates with a napkin, even poured her coffee, extra cream, no sugar, just how she liked it. When she finally emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, she looked pale, like a ghost of the woman who used to lie to my face without flinching. She walked to the table, sat down across from me, and stared at the food like it was a threat. "Ezra," she began, and I swear she looked like she was about to cry. "Can we talk?" I took a bite of toast and nodded. "Sure. Go ahead." She hesitated. I was darting to her phone, to the hallway, back to me. I waited. I didn't rush her. I wanted to hear how she'd twist it, what version of the story she'd try to sell. And when she finally opened her mouth again, it started exactly the way I thought it would. "I know this looks bad, but..." Oh, there it was. The classic opener to every guilty person's monologue. I almost laughed. "But it's not what you think," she said, the line so tired and predictable it made my stomach churn. "He's just someone I confided in, emotionally, at first. I didn't mean for it to become anything more. You've been so distant lately, and I didn't know how to talk to you." I let her talk. Let her pour out half-baked apologies and cheap justifications like confetti at a pity party. Every sentence was another dodge, another excuse. Not once did she take real responsibility. She never said the words I needed to hear. "I betrayed you." Instead, it was, "We were disconnected. I felt lonely. I needed to feel wanted again." And still, I just nodded, ate my breakfast, sipped my coffee. She leaned forward at one point, eyes wide and wet, whispering, "Can we fix this? I still love you." That's when I lost my appetite. I put down my fork, leaned back, and asked the question I'd been holding since Tuesday night. "Did he love you back? Did you ask him for a second chance?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. And that silence? That was my answer. I stood up slowly, cleared my plate, rinsed it in the sink, and grabbed my keys. "I've got errands to run," I said as calmly as I could manage, even though my hands were shaking again. "We'll talk more when I get back." She looked confused, like she expected me to shout, to cry, to break down. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. Not yet. I had one more thing I needed to do before I showed my full hand. I walked out the door without looking back, drove across town, parked 3 blocks from an address I had memorized from the hotel's check-in log. His address. I wasn't going there to confront him. I wasn't going to throw punches or yell threats. That wasn't my style. What I was going to do was leave a carefully sealed envelope in his mailbox. Inside were 2 things, a printed copy of the chat transcripts between him and Selena, and a handwritten note that said, "She told me you meant nothing. Did she tell you the same about me?" Then I drove home. When I walked back in, she was sitting on the couch, still in her pajamas, gripping her phone like it might give her a way out. I smiled politely and sat down across from her. "Tomorrow," I said, "we're going to a little dinner. Just the two of us. One last date night." Her brows furrowed. "Wait, what?" I nodded. "Dress nice. Pick your favorite place. No phones." She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off with a soft smile. "Think of it as a goodbye party." She didn't argue. That was the weird part. She just stared at me when I said goodbye party, like she was trying to decide whether I was being sarcastic or if she'd finally crossed a line she couldn't dance around. I could tell she wanted to ask questions, but the words stayed locked behind that shaky smile she always wore when she knew she'd been caught. That night she barely said a word. She went to bed early, pulled the comforter over her like it could protect her from the truth sitting between us. I didn't sleep. I laid on my side of the bed with my eyes open, counting every second in my head, every heartbeat that thumped louder than it should have, thinking about how a dinner table had become a battlefield. The next day, she acted like she was preparing for prom. Hair curled. New dress. Nails done. I recognized the perfume. It was the same one she used to wear when we first started dating. The one that always lingered on my pillow after she stayed over. I watched her from the hallway, arms crossed, and something in my chest twisted up into this tangled knot of nostalgia and nausea. It would have been almost beautiful if it hadn't been fake. She thought this dinner would be her redemption arc, but I never booked a table. I had something entirely different in mind. She didn't notice we drove the wrong direction. Not at first. She was too busy fixing her lipstick in the mirror and nervously checking her phone. Maybe she was texting him again, warning him that I was acting strange. Or maybe she was just scared. Not scared of me. I'd never hurt her. But scared that for once, she didn't have control of the script. When we pulled up to the edge of Crestwood Park, she finally asked, "Wait, where are we going?" I smiled. "Change of plans. Thought we'd take a walk first. Nice weather." She blinked. "In heels." I shrugged. "You look great. Heels deserve to be seen." That line hit her. I could tell. The little twitch in her eye, the quick glance down at her phone. She knew I was toying with her now, gently pulling the threads of her story loose without making a scene. We walked the path in silence for a bit. I let her take in the tall oaks, the fading light, the quiet breeze that barely made the leaves rustle. It was the same park where I had proposed to her 7 years earlier, right beside the old footbridge. I could see the exact spot where I'd knelt, hand shaking, voice cracking, asking a woman I thought I knew to spend forever with me. We stopped near that very bridge. I turned to her and pulled something from my coat pocket, the folded chat logs. Printed. Highlighted. Dozens of pages of her conversations. Every lie. Every date. Every time she wrote, "I'm at Target," while booking hotel rooms under fake names. Her face collapsed. She didn't speak. Her hand went to her mouth, and for the first time since this whole thing began, I saw something real. Not shame. Not guilt. Just fear. Not fear of me, fear of consequences. Fear of exposure. Fear that she wasn't going to slither out of this one with a few well-placed tears. I handed her the papers and took a step back. "I thought we'd have dinner," I said, "but I'm not hungry anymore." "Are you?" She looked at me like I'd just cracked the world in half. "Ezra," she whispered, "please, don't do this. We can talk about it." "We already are talking," I said. "Every word I needed was already in your texts. I just wanted to see what face you'd wear when you realized I know everything." She clutched the papers like they might disappear if she squeezed hard enough. "I was lost," she said. "You pulled away first. You were so checked out. I needed something, someone." I nodded slowly. "And you found him. Multiple times. In multiple rooms. I get it now." She tried stepping closer, but I didn't move. "Please," she said again, breath shaking, "we can work through this." "That's the difference between us," I replied. "You were trying to escape. I was trying to hold on." She looked like she wanted to cry but couldn't. I don't think she had any tears left. Maybe they dried up from all the lying. Maybe she just didn't want to waste them on me. I checked my watch. "You should go," I said. "Dinner's still on if you want to meet him. You'll probably make it on time if you hurry." I turned and walked back toward the car, leaving her on the bridge with a stack of papers and the cold breeze that refused to blow this moment away. What she didn't know, what she still hadn't realized, was that I hadn't just printed the messages for her. I had printed them for someone else, too, and they were already in the mail. I don't know if she stood on that bridge for 5 minutes or 5 hours after I left. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. That moment wasn't about punishment. It was about truth. And truth, when it lands all at once. Hits like a truck you never saw coming. But what mattered more to me was the envelope she didn't know existed. Not the one I handed her. Not the one I dropped off at her lover's mailbox earlier that week. I'm talking about the second envelope, the one I'd addressed with quiet calculation, sent through certified mail, and tracked every step of the way. It was addressed to her parents. I know how it sounds. Petty, spiteful, cruel. But before you judge me, ask yourself this. What would you do if the woman who promised you forever took that promise and lit it on fire behind your back? Her parents were good people, decent, kind. Her father even walked me through fixing our first leaky sink, beer in hand, grinning while calling me son. Her mother treated me like her own, bringing over soups and blankets when I got sick, giving me advice about staying strong when Selena lost her job years ago. And when Selena started drifting, they noticed. Her mom called me more than once asking if everything was okay. I lied. I covered. I protected the woman who was tearing me down in secret. But not anymore. Inside the envelope was a letter. No drama. No yelling. Just the facts. A copy of the messages. A few stills from the video footage I quietly gathered from my phone, taken through that thin gap in the hotel door. I blurred the details that didn't need to be seen. I wasn't trying to humiliate anyone. I just wanted them to know. To see what I saw, to understand that I hadn't given up on their daughter, but their daughter had given up on everything. It arrived that afternoon. I know because her father called me. The number lit up on my screen just as I stepped into the house after the park. I paused, staring at the name. Part of me didn't want to answer. Part of me didn't want to hear the disappointment in his voice. Not in me, but in her. I answered. He didn't yell, didn't ask questions, just said one thing. I didn't raise her to be this. And then he hung up. I stood there in the entryway, phone still to my ear, hand numb. My chest felt hollow, like I'd just burned the last bridge between who we used to be and who we were now. Selena wasn't home. I assumed she went somewhere to recover, to text him, maybe even to cry. But when she finally came back that evening, she looked like a storm cloud about to burst. Her cheeks were red, mascara smudged, and her purse hit the counter like she meant to break something. You told my parents? She didn't even try to hide it. I didn't tell them, I said calmly. I showed them. Why? What are you trying to do to me? She snapped, her voice cracking. You want to destroy my whole life. No, I replied. You already did that. I just made sure everyone was looking when the pieces hit the floor. She turned away, hands clenched, pacing like a caged animal. You don't understand, Ezra. You don't know what it's like to feel unwanted for years, to feel invisible. I do know, I said, because I was married to you. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. I gave you everything. I continued. Time. Patience. Trust. And every time I felt like you were slipping, I gave you more room, more space, more excuses. And you used that space to cheat. Over and over. Not because I was some horrible monster, but because you thought I'd never leave. She didn't deny it. She didn't say sorry. Instead, she said something I wasn't ready for. I think I might be pregnant. I didn't move. Didn't blink. She watched me closely, like she expected me to explode or break down or beg for clarity. I didn't do any of that. I simply asked, whose is it? And the way her face twisted told me everything I needed to know. There was no baby, just a last-ditch manipulation. I nodded, walked past her, and grabbed the small box I'd packed the night before. Not clothes, not essentials, just a flash drive, copies of everything, and a letter. I placed it on the coffee table beside her untouched wedding album. That's for your lawyer, I said. You'll need it. Then I left the house. Not forever, not yet, but for the first time in years on my terms. I didn't go far. Just 2 miles down the road to a modest roadside inn with thin walls and stiff pillows. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet. And quiet, after months of emotional chaos, was golden. I sat on the edge of that unfamiliar bed staring at the yellow wallpaper, trying to process what had just happened, what I had just done. I had finally taken my hands off a sinking ship. I wasn't swimming toward anything. I was just letting it go down without me. And still, as the night dragged on and the room dimmed to a low hum of traffic outside, the weight of it all didn't lift. I wasn't free. I was just suspended. Around 1:17 a.m., her name lit up my phone. A long text. I didn't read it. Not then. Just seeing her name made my stomach twist. It was like the ghost of a person I no longer knew trying to claw its way back into my life. I turned the phone face down and got up. The air conditioner kicked on as I paced the room in bare feet. I caught my reflection in the window. Pale, hollow-eyed. A man halfway between devastation and some barely recognizable version of courage. There was something almost theatrical about the timing, though. Like she knew I was at my weakest. Or maybe she had just reached hers. But whatever she had typed out in that message would stay sealed for now. I wasn't ready to let her voice back into my head. Not yet. The next morning, I walked the 2 blocks to a little diner that smelled like burnt toast and syrup. The waitress didn't ask questions. She just brought me black coffee and a plate of scrambled eggs I barely touched. Across the booth sat my laptop, open to an email draft I'd been working on since last week, the one to my boss. The one explaining, in vague and professional terms, that I'd need to take some personal time. He'd understand. Probably already suspected. I'd been coming in late, leaving early, walking around like a ghost. Everyone had noticed, even if they were too polite to ask. But I wasn't writing it for him. I was writing it because I had finally made a decision. The moment I walked out of our house, I knew there was no going back. The person I had been, hopeful, loyal, always making excuses for her distance, he didn't exist anymore. Not since I saw her fingers trembling around that mug. Not since she lied and lied again. Not since she used the idea of a baby as a last bullet in her emotional revolver. She fired it point blank, and still I didn't flinch. That told me everything. Back at the motel, I opened her message. Just one sentence. Please come home. I miss you. Let's fix this. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just a desperate plea to rewind time without doing the work. I didn't reply. I did, however, write one of my own. Short. Clear. There's nothing to fix. There's only what you broke. I didn't hit send right away. I hovered over it for a while. Not out of doubt, but because I wanted her to feel the same delay she always gave me. The kind that made me question myself for hours, days. The kind that made me ask, did I do something wrong? Then I sent it, and blocked her number. I thought that would be the end. But the universe has a sick sense of irony. Because that same evening, just as I started packing up to leave the motel for good, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was a spam call. I almost ignored it. But I answered. A woman's voice. Soft, unsure. Hi. Ezra. My chest tightened. Who is this? She hesitated, then said, I'm Rachel. I don't know how to say this, but I think my boyfriend is having an affair with someone named Selena. I found your number in the call logs. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. Everything in me went cold. Because she didn't know. Selena wasn't just cheating with one man. There was another one, too. And Rachel? She had receipts. Her voice cracked as she spoke, and for a second, I thought I might be dreaming. But no, it was real. Rachel was real. The betrayal was real. And the twist? Somehow, it didn't even shock me anymore. I just felt this strange wave of stillness wash over me, like my body already knew the truth long before my mind caught up. Selena hadn't just broken our vows, she'd made betrayal her hobby. Multiple partners. Multiple layers of lies. And now, a woman I had never met was reaching out to me with the same kind of raw pain I'd been carrying alone for months. We agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. No drama. Just 2 strangers connected by the same hurricane. When I walked in, Rachel stood from her table, holding a manila envelope. She looked just as tired as I probably did. Eyes rimmed with fatigue, but somehow steady. She extended her hand and said, Let's trade war stories. We sat for nearly 3 hours. She showed me photos, messages, calendar notes, even screenshots of Selena using a different alias to meet her boyfriend, someone Rachel had been with for nearly 4 years. We laughed bitterly at first, then genuinely. That kind of laughter that only comes from finding someone else who understands the depth of the madness you just crawled out of. It was healing in a way I didn't expect. It was like finally exhaling after holding your breath underwater too long. By the end of our conversation, something unexpected had bloomed between us. Not romance. Not even flirtation. Just understanding. Just peace. She told me she was leaving him. I told her I already left her. We weren't victims anymore. We were survivors. And in that moment, I finally believed it. I didn't return to the house. I had already spoken to a lawyer, already opened a new bank account, already signed the paperwork to sell the home. Selena would get her share, what the court said she was entitled to. But she wouldn't get me anymore. She wouldn't get my kindness, my trust, or my time. I took all of that back. The final time I saw her was in court. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but emotionally. She kept her eyes down, signed what needed to be signed, and didn't say a word. There was no begging this time. No threats. Just silence. And honestly, I was grateful. I didn't need an apology anymore. I didn't need closure from her. I had given that to myself. 6 months later, I moved into a small place near the lake. I got a dog, something I always wanted, but she said would ruin the furniture. His name is Bishop, and he doesn't lie, doesn't cheat. Just sits beside me on the porch at sunset like he's keeping the past from sneaking back in. One afternoon, I got a message from Rachel. Just a picture. A passport stamp from Iceland. And a caption. Finally somewhere cold that doesn't hurt. I smiled. I looked down at Bishop and said, she made it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that healing is linear or that every day is sunshine. It's not. But it's mine now. My mornings. My choices. My peace. I spend my Sundays reading, hiking, breathing, actually breathing. Selena's name? It barely stings anymore. Because when you finally walk away from someone who never truly saw you, you begin to see yourself. And I like who I see.